Buongiorno, welcome to our out of possession goals conceded session. So without further ado, I'll start off with some of the goals that we've conceded. Let's just replay that one because there's some common themes here about not releasing. So Harrison there, not winning his 1v1, not predicting the pass over. We're backing each other up, but we're not showing them into the wide zone. I know we haven't got Mickey for this game, so I won't be too critical of Hughesy there. But I think the key parts here are how can we show him out wide and close that space down a little bit better. We've actually got really good cover behind Jonesy in that picture, but we probably don't go and press in. But anyway, 1-0 to West Brom, I think that was there. That picture of Jamie and Freddie pressing the same ball sort of sets off the chain of events of us not being able to deal with this one. And then again, we shouldn't let that player come back in. But starting a little bit higher up the pitch, that problem did around us not dictating. So we dictate here really well. I think just look behind the ball into this zone now. So I think Beardsy mentions to Jamie about marking his man. But the most important bit here is all of our body positions not facing the way that the ball, we need to clear the ball. We're actually facing the goal, and that poses the biggest problem because if you take a contact, you're going to score an own goal, right? And then we can be critical of Harrison's goalkeeping here. So I think he basically just passes it to, it's a really good assist. So yeah, really good assist there, H. It's one of those, isn't it? One of those free kicks that 3 or 4 years' time, nobody scores those from that far out. But just a little bit of just something that we spoke about in the in-possession goal scored is about how our number 9 can hold up the ball. So that for me would be a picture of how we can build through the 9. But we lose it here. Harrison falls over in correct boots, I believe. And what a goal. Really, really good goal. Really, really good goal there from them. So these are the goals versus Newcastle. So this is the first game when some of the stats will start to show on the on our dashboards in a moment, and that's a real sort of picture for us around where we concede a lot of goals from. So if I pause it there, you'd think to yourself, no way this player's going to score. No way this player's going to score in this position. But he just bulldozes through. And we just need to be, probably a little bit nastier there in taking the ball off the player instead of letting them run through. And you'll see 2 or 3 other very similar goals. Another goal conceded on the right-hand side. I think for us, this is a bit of a worry and a consideration for us is how are we defending in that part of the pitch here is probably the if you think about the goals against West Brom, think about the goals against Newcastle, we've gone through a little bit of a spell where that a lot of them are coming from this area still. This is that right hand zone. That right hand zone again that's just been that's been hit by the opposition. Goal against Wade Green, very similar to the one that we conceded against Everton last year with a long throw. And again, if you pause it right in the middle, which I won't do, but look how many players we've got around there, and we're not attacking that ball. We're not attacking it, and I think there has to be, there's probably a criticism from me and a view. I'll just pause it there where you guys want to play football and want to play out, and I've created that. So, I'm not blaming you for not wanting to just boot it up the pitch and clear it, because that's something that I've encouraged you not to do. I think this season now we've been able to play this beautiful football. There's going to be a time sometimes, we call it emergency defend. I think that needs to be led by probably me, where I think it's acceptable. So I'll take the blame on that one, because we do need to just emergency defend sometimes and just get it out of there, which you'll see in this against Leamington as well. I think that's an example of when we could emergency defend. And again, the bloke just bulldozes through, and we're unable to clear it. So Harrison just holding on to that ball instead of finding a teammate, and then we lose it. So just want to pause at the point where Harrison does lose it, because this is a little bit of a theme around. Well, it's not a little bit; it is a theme. So Harrison gets the ball here. Now, if we look at everybody, and you know me, I'm all about what's happening around the player, not just the player on the ball. But we've got probably 3 or 4 players on the same passing line here, and nobody's trying to break this line here at pace. So whilst I'm critical, and I'll be critical for Harrison, you might not think I am, but when he's in this height, I criticise all the time. I think that is, it's high challenge, high support, by the way. It's not just criticism, but we need to be really mindful that if we're holding on to the ball like now, that we're trying to do something to try and get onto it in those areas. And I think that picture, for me, would have been a time when we should have just got rid of the ball. So I think this made it 2-1. I think the penalty was first. So I haven't clicked this right. I think that was 2-1. And I think this is the penalty. So yeah, all's fine here. It's this ball here, it shouldn't happen, this one. That ball there, not a fan of that, boys, Jamie and Foggy. I think, we spoke about defensive compactness, and that in that picture we shouldn't let them get the ball out of that central area, but it's a great penalty. Let's have a look at Mickey in this one, in this penalty. Does he trick? There's no Bruce Grobbelaars or Jerzy Dudeks there. Mickey. No, you've done it in the past against Hensford Town, was it? So I've analysed this one till the cows come home, and I think if I pause this here, my only consideration here is that I think, Max, you are marking this player that Matty should be marking. And if you let Matty mark this player, this is you trying to do too much. Trust Matty to mark this player. You can then come in here. That then leaves Jonesy to be around this area. But also, Freddie, just look at how you leave your man to go and win the header. I think that is, that's something that we're going to develop over time, right? I'm not blaming you and saying it's your reason for the goal, because, as I've already mentioned, there's probably 2 or 3 things that could have corrected this. First one being, Max, get in. And what I would say is, because I thought about it and thought, I wonder if this guy had a throw-in beforehand. And he had 2 throw-ins before where he absolutely smashed it, about 20, 25 yards. So, it's something that we should have been mindful of. I'm not too concerned about where he scored from there. However, it's how it gets to him. So think about that picture that we spoke about in training, about 1 go for the ball, 1 drop. So those goals won't happen again 2 or 3 years' time. Nothing for me to worry about. So this is interesting. This is our first goal conceded trying to play out from the back. And there's actually isn't the defence or the CDM's problem the reason why this fails. I'll explain why in a moment. So if you look at this picture here, we've got 3 players on the same passing line. That is our problem. So all of the midfield, if you think about this midfield, we talk about the V, and the V should be in place all the time. So who is in this area? Who's the CDM that should be in this area? Well, it was Jamie in this picture, but Jamie's taking the players out here, and this gap just narrows immediately, and then they're able to attack. Foggy, could you have just reacted a little bit quicker in that picture to have stepped across? I don't think you would have got there, but that intent and willingness to come across, and just that, you know, if you think about reaction time when do we lose it? We lose it here. Now protect the central area. Should always be our first consideration about protecting that central area. But again, high challenge, high support from me in these these clips. So I'll always challenge. I'm not going to lose any sleep over this type of goal, guys, because, you know, in 2 or 3 years' time, these don't happen. Yeah, a player doesn't shoot from that area, and then we concede a silly goal from there. So, look, no issues with that at all. I think that concludes the clip. So let me just go on to a little bit of the analysis now, and I'll flick this over. Let me just do key metrics in possession minutes for the possession 1, pass location. What else do we need? We want defensive actions. Where's that? Defensive actions. Okay. So, did I press cancel then? Must have. Defensive events. Oh, can't do the data. This is no good, guys. This is live TV for you. It happens. Right, let's just do those again. So possession minutes. So we want shots conceded, and we want defensive. Hopefully that will fetch the data. There we go. Okay, so some of the key metrics around passes completed. I need, where is it? Possession 1. There we go. Okay, so from right to left, possession 1, how many times we win the ball back? So we win the ball back less against Newcastle, 180 times against Worcester, 177, 179 against Calcer, Leamington 195, and then Old Wolves 186. They didn't have the ball that much anyway for them to dominate. So possession 1's really, really important for me. So think about how many times we can win that ball back quicker. Higher up the pitch, the better as well. Defensive events. So these are things like goal kicks, corners, shots. How many are we conceding on a game by game basis? So what I would say in these, I think this is really I think this is a reflection of how calm our defence are in games and how good they are at doing their objectives, which are being compact, showing wide. Because if we're pressing, showing wide into those wide areas, then we'll reduce these over time. So I want to get one of these into the under 20 at one point this season. Shots conceded, really interesting. Newcastle 22, 10 from Worcester, 10 from Wake Green, 12 from Calcer, 18 against Leamington Spa, 18 shots. It's important to understand where these shots are coming from as well, which I'll show you in a moment, and 11 from Old Wolves. So if you look at our defending and then look at total attempts, it's very similar to us in the sense of shots from outside the box, which is fantastic, right? This to me shows that our defence is, when we're putting focus on the defence aren't allowing shots from inside the box. I spoke about goals coming from the attacking left or our defensive left. I think this is a theme that I want us to focus on, about how we can be tighter with our right back and our right centre back. but also maybe our right centre mid dropping in. And don't underestimate the CDM's role in this in these pitches as well, because Mark always says to me the CDM is probably the best screening protection for the defence, which we don't always focus on. We always think about the CDM being the person that sprays the pivot and connects the pivot in possession. A lot of goals in this central area, which I think is quite worrying, isn't it? If I think about where the goals are coming from, they're in that central area. Only one penalty, but we're conceding a lot of goals in that central area as well. So again, centre backs. Again, I've got my card to go through in a moment around the things that we're going to work on with you and focuses for the second half of the season or this next sort of 6 to 8 weeks. But goals coming from inside the box is evident. We're creating a lot of shots on this left-hand side, and I just want you to pause, reflect on this, because I'm a real big fan of Beardsy, as you all know. I'm a fan of all of you, right? But what I would say about Beardsy is he dictates. So, if you think about all these shots here, if I played any of them, I guarantee you they'll be about how Beardsy dictates them out wide and doesn't allow that player to shoot. Mickey comes out for that one, which is fantastic. But, the point that I'm making here is that the left-hand side in our defence is something that we should be really, really proud of, because, it looks like we've played against some really tough right wingers, but we've been able to retain and stop them from scoring. And then we've sort of conceded on that on our right-hand side, which is something that we'll work on, about how we dictate, how do we cover, how do we step in, centre mid, CDM, how do we help and support in that area as well. So just on pass location, if I think about pass location, I would want our defence to be to be stronger in our pass location. So think about how we can stretch that pitch. I spoke about when we were in possession about stretching the pitch. How can we be calmer? How can we bounce back into the midfield or use Mickey as the pivot further back? How can we combine with our fullbacks into our centre halves and then just try and switch the play through what we would call the horseshoe back into that central defence position? But defenders, I do want to see a little bit more possession from you in that defensive third. If I look at opponents are only getting 9% of possession in their attacking third. So, we're doing a really good job of stopping the passes. And I think because we're doing such a good job at stopping the passes in the final third, that's why we're getting lots of shots in that final third. So I see this as being a real positive of our first half of the season, or certainly 7 games into the season. Possession location. So we're getting a lot of possession here, but we're not actually connecting the volume of passes. So loads of possession. If I look at the opposition team, they're getting 24% of possession in the final third. So something for us to try and eradicate the opposition being in possession in the final third. If I switch that around to us, only 17% of the time that we've got the ball, we're in the final third. So, I think this is a lot to do with teams that we played being very direct, but we just need to get the ball down, get in front of that centre forward that's holding that ball up, because I notice us being quite reserved when the centre forwards getting onto the ball. We're just leaving them to it. One of us needs to go and make the first contact with the ball in that situation. So just some coaching points for me. I think what's really, really important in the next sort of phase of our play is thinking about the CDM position. So the CDM position for me now we need to be focusing on how are they providing the defensive cover so we don't get these silly goals in these areas. Okay, how can we provide the defensive cover to stop the central area being dominated and being bulldozed? So they need to be making the tackles outside the box. They need to be making the interceptions outside the box, as well as the central midfielders. See centre backs having a staggered line. So I think what was evident in a lot of the goals is our centre backs are very straight. One of them's not covering. One of them's not pressing, so we need to be better at that staggered centre back instead of being side by side. And also think about how compact you are, which is a bit further down. Centre back compactness. If we're compact, we don't necessarily get these goals, but someone's got to own it. Someone's got to take accountability of that player in that picture, in that situation, either through communication or through knowledge of who does it. Goalkeeper a bit higher. I think this is really important that we don't forget about Mickey. So Mickey, when we know that we've got danger in these areas, how can you just go out and close and narrow the angle down a little bit better? Always make first contact with the ball if we can, instead of letting the attacker bring it down and play. Clearances, I'm going to lead on this a little bit more about how can we defend in an emergency position by getting the ball up the pitch. And that's when the number 9 comes in to holding that ball up, or the 7 or 11. And then the final point is about press, balance and cover. So I think that it was evident against West Brom where fullbacks were going and centre-backs weren't covering the space behind. I think that that's what created 2 or 3 of the goals. And, you know, certainly in these areas as well, if I played any of these, I think we would see the same picture of how the centre-backs aren't protecting the fullbacks when they're beaten, or we're showing them into wide areas, but they just beat us because, you know, generally wingers are strong, powerful, pacey individuals. So, listen, that's my analysis on the goals that we've conceded this year. I'll get you right in a moment. Loads for us to work on. Let's not be complacent. Let's train hard, work hard. Focus in training will be in possession. Certainly around some of those bits that we spoke about around how do we get the ball into the box. But defenders, it's your opportunity to shine, because we're going to get loads of repetition of how do we keep the attackers into the wide areas, and we don't allow them into these spaces that we know they're going to score if they get the ball in. So love you and leave you. Ciao for now. Enjoy your evening.